Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's happening, all my woods people? It's another brisk day here. Dude, it is so humid outside right now.
Most of the day was pretty good, really. But like all of a sudden, the last couple hours, it's just cooking.
But it was like, it's been like just fat air all day. It just wasn't that hot. It was overcast. And then when the sun came out, it didn't burn it off or anything. It's just like, hey, let's just be 96 and then have that humidity as well. It's been outrageous, man. But we've had a couple of decent days here. The rain was nice yesterday, man.
It was. And I ended up staying most of the day inside, which kind of
Me too.
I kind of wasted the super cool day yesterday. But I don't want to say I wasted it. I did a lot of important things yesterday. But today I actually went and pulled the first trail camera on my property.
Oh.
I have a shooter on camera.
Oh, no.
He's
really?
not a toad, but he's a good 8-point, and I'll probably shoot him if I get the chance.
Dadgummit.
I know it, dude. And dude, here's the deal. We'd been talking a little bit about if it's too early to put out corn. I put the corn out at 7:30 in the morning, and by 10:30 there were does on it.
I had
it's like
I had corn
instant
deer or does the same night. I put corn out too. So.
Yeah, they're all over it, man.
That's crazy.
All over it. Yeah.
I guess they just, I don't know. I wonder if like this time of year, if a lot of that stuff in the woods becomes kind of not so palatable because it's just grown out all the way, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of fibrous.
And then, the acorns are still not really dropping, which they're kind of starting. So
I think a lot of the ones that are falling are wormy. I kind of cracked some today. Yeah.
So that's cool, dude.
There's also porkers over there.
I imagine there are.
I might go shoot one.
Are they doing the daytime thing?
They are doing the dusk thing. So I think that you can make it happen for sure.
You going to test out a new broadhead?
With a new broadhead, we'll crank that A7S2 all the way up on the ISO.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Do it.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, that's cool, man. That's I ate some pork tenderloin the other night, but it wasn't wild. And it was good.
Yummy.
It's all good. Yeah. So anyway, dude, I know you and I were talking earlier, but and you kind of voiced that you wanted to divvy out some inspiration here because we're coming off the Backcountry series, and there's just been a lot of things in our mind as we're preparing for this elk hunt.
That's right. There's been a couple people reach out, and I'm very glad. Not that I'm an expert, but I've done this thing, and maybe I can just be inspirational where on the DIY elk hunting stuff. And here's the deal, guys. If you ever think about elk hunting, pretty much if you have $1,000 that you can throw at something, you can go do it this year. It's not too late. You can go buy a tag on September 20th and go elk hunting if you want to. So I just want everyone to realize that elk hunting is obtainable.
Yeah.
Even like, well, we'll just say Zach Farnball the other day posted on Instagram. He's been on the show a few times, and he posted on Instagram that he'd been dreaming about hunting Colorado his whole life, and this year he's finally going to get to. I'm like, dude, why have you not done this already? What are you doing? Come on.
Where you been, bro?
I know, so, and that's a dude who like literally hunts for a living now, right?
Yeah.
So like, man, it's so obtainable. All you got to do is just save a little money. I know $1,000 is a lot of money, but if it's something you love to do, hunting is something you love to do, don't just dream about elk your whole life, because you never know when you're going to break your ankle and all of a sudden you can't get around in the woods for the rest of your life.
Dude, that's a good point, man. That's something that you don't think about very often, especially if you're kind of young and you're just like, oh, I'll never be hurt, you know.
Yeah.
It can happen, man. I got a guy that's a friend of mine I've told you about a few times, and he's had a torn ACL for years, like 7 or 8 years, I think. And he's finally like, I'm going to go get this thing fixed, because if I don't, I'll just never go elk hunting, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You know, I was talking to Jake Hofer the other day, who's also been on the show a few times, and that guy is going to do some elk hunting this year.
Is he really?
Yeah.
All right.
And so he apparently bought a course, which from another guy who's been on our podcast. You know which one I'm talking about. And so... And I guess just to learn how to elk hunt, maybe call and everything. I don't know what all's offered in the course, but I know that a lot of guys, and me included, are a little bit intimidated by the calling aspect of it, because, you know, a diaphragm is kind of the way to go most of the time, it seems like. And there's a lot, like I can call turkey with a diaphragm decent, I'm not crazy or anything. My specialty really in the calling world is duck calling. I feel like that's what I practice the most. But man, in all honesty, like, I mean, outside of the rut, I don't think there's a whole lot of like calling bulls in anyway.
No.
So like there's a huge season there. Not to mention even during the rut you can do this, but like spot and stalk. You know what I mean? Like look through the timber 300, 200 yards away and find elk, bedded or whatever. There's a different way to hunt them than most guys think about,
Sure.
So.
Yeah, if you can get the wind in your face and just slip around, that's how most elk get killed.
Yeah.
Most elk aren't called in bugling.
I mean, we almost killed a cow doing that, right?
We almost killed a bull.
Yeah.
Remember the bull and 2 cows?
Yep.
I almost killed them. I decided to step back and call them, which was the bad choice. But if I'd have just snuck up there, you had to learn things along the way. But more often than not, you just walk up on elk. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that makes videos is calling, but it's not like the real world of elk hunting.
Yeah, So I mean, point taken, man. I mean, I think it's great that you would inspire people because you can listen to this backcountry podcast all you want and learn a lot of things from it, like we did. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like. It can be maybe a little bit overcomplicated, I mean, in Colorado especially, like most units go get a tag, drive to a trailhead, and just go in there for the day.
Yeah.
And then come back out and camp at your truck, like you don't need to know how to, pitch some tiny little tent that is kind of hard to put up in the backcountry and camp in the right spot and, have this high quality equipment, I mean, you can go to the Army surplus store and buy a sleeping bag and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And keep it at your truck.
I'm pretty sure your whitetail boots, if you want to go in and day hunt, will work just fine.
Yeah.
Right? Your bow and arrow that you already have for whitetail will probably work just fine unless you're a smaller person or something like that. But even that, my mom's still going up there and hunting elk, right? And she's going to be able to kill one if she hits in the right spot.
Throw a fixed blade on it.
It's not that complicated. Yeah. Just go up there and hunt. And, maybe you'll catch the bug. You'll learn a few things, and you'll want to go back and do it differently. But for right now, go up there and hunt. Put on your whitetail clothes, walk around, and shoot an elk.
Yeah,
it can
guys,
happen.
Don't miss a chance, man. Go get a tag, like whatever it is, go get a tag and do it, man, if you want to do it. And we say all that because we're kind of coming off this backcountry series. We've had a lot of interest in it, and we just want you guys to know that it's also simple and it can be done in many different ways. So coming off of that series, actually during that series, we had a pretty high milestone for us. Like something we mentioned it several times. We hit 100,000 downloads, and in a kind of appreciation for that, we decided to do a giveaway. You guys have probably heard this a million times. So basically, you can find out if you listen to any of these other episodes. We won't go through all the prizes, but just go give us a review on iTunes, and you're in the running for that. Just tell us, what you like about the podcast, what's been helpful to you, what you might want to hear, and that'll be a good thing. We're looking like things have really, since then, taken off really well for us. I mean, we're looking at hitting that many downloads just in this year total. So
we haven't even hit the busy part of the year.
That's right.
So y'all be ready, be listening, because this fall is going to be so cool.
It's going to be awesome.
I'm so stoked.
Dude, I cannot wait. I'm telling you right now, like I'm sipping on a fountain Coke here, and I haven't like I've been trying to not indulge in too many things at all in the last few days, especially because I'm starting to crack down on just elk shape and everything. And I'm drinking this Coke because I need some caffeine because I haven't been sleeping well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with just so many hunts and so many cool things that we're going. Like I literally, if I wake up, I'm immediately thinking about the next hunt, and I'm like, okay, well, this is something I got to do. I got to order this. I got to make sure this gets in the truck. Oh, what about this detail? Do I need to map scout anymore? Like all these different things that are coming into my mind, and I immediately am awake, for good. So it's been pretty tough. But if you're listening to this the first day this releases, we are actually doing a live Q&A on Facebook, and that is Thursday night, August 29th. So for those... Yeah. Most of you will probably miss this, but there will be some that listen the first night that'll have an opportunity. Just you can send us any message on any platform, and we'll try to get to those. But it's also really convenient for you guys just to comment on there and ask any question you want. I mean, we're kind of hoping that we'll get to answer questions about the upcoming season. any hunts or how we would do this or what we would do or just anything. I mean, you guys just, if you want to chat, come hang out with us at 7 p.m. Central on Thursday, August 29th on Facebook. And I think we're going to do Instagram Live too. So
we might even do YouTube Live if I can figure that out.
Yeah. So there'll be two. Cool. There'll be at least 2 platforms going at the same time. So we'll do that. And so we have we're going to do kind of a Q&A, and then we have an important announcement to make in regards to videos this fall. So this season is coming quickly, and with that said, you've got just a little more time to employ this tactic that we're discussing today. Casey, what's the topic, dude?
So about 2 weeks ago, we went out and did what we refer to as thermal scouting. This is not scouting thermal bedding.
So you weren't looking for heat or cool or anything like that,
well,
bedding?
I might have been looking for heat, but in a different way.
Okay.
We wasn't looking for, like, the thermals changing in the morning.
So you weren't dropping milkweed?
No, I didn't drop any milkweed that night. We actually were using thermal imaging to... Target's not the right word. Target scout.
Yeah.
Scout big bucks. Mm-hmm. And it worked pretty awesome.
It was pretty cool, man.
It was pretty fun.
I'm glad you didn't say target because we had some people that I guess thought we were targeting them.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, before we get too deep into this thing, we're using a thing that people strap to the top of an AR to shoot pigs with around here a lot, okay? Wasn't strapped to an AR.
Nope.
There's
if
nothing
you watch
really
the video,
wrong with it.
Brendan's like, I just came it over there the same way every time.
Yeah, and I say, let's take it off of there. So there's no gun involved. It's not like we're pointing guns at deer at night, right? So the only way that this can be controversial is if you're already doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. Like if you're out poaching, yes, this is not a good thing. But if you're just taking it out, it's just a tool. Mm-hmm. It's just like anything else, right? Trail cameras or whatever. I mean, trail cameras take pictures at night. So thermal imaging is not night vision. They're two different things, right? Mm-hmm. Night vision is using ultraviolet light that our eyes can't pick up, but these sensors can pick up and you can look through it. Will wear your eyes out. I used it a lot when I worked for the state.
Oh,
and
really?
And it's just not very detailed. A lot of like what you see in the movies is really what it looks like. It's like green and gray and black. Mm-hmm. And it'll wear you out. This thermal stuff, man, you can set it to all kinds of ways. White hot, black hot, whatever you want to. You can even do that old school way where it's like
certain colors
rainbow.
Are cool and certain colors are hot, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it's picking up the heat emitted from an animal's body, all right? So you probably can't see alligators or snakes, so be careful, all right? But for warm-blooded things, right, like hummingbirds or... I don't know, what else? Field mice or even big giant bucks. You will be able to see the heat emitting. Now, what's funny is I looked at some chickens through one the other night, and that was kind of weird because their feathers kind of held in some heat. So, like, the chicken face was different color than chicken body. Chickens are pretty creepy little critters.
Kind of like the llama we saw.
It was. That llama, dude. You couldn't hardly see that thing.
That's weird, dude.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, I don't want to be a llama in Texas holding all that heat in. That would be bad.
Yeah.
But, anyways, we actually... went around with one of our good friends who couldn't make it on the podcast because he just is not the greatest at answering phone calls or messages sometimes. One day his phone actually bit the dust and we couldn't get a hold of him, so that's fun.
There's an excuse.
But, we, old Brennan Rhodes, y'all have heard him a few times. Anyways, we went out with Brennan and picked up some pretty good deer, man. Picked up some really good deer. And there's a key factor, the key thing that has to be going on for this to work. Otherwise, you're just looking at deer. There has to be velvet on the antlers.
That's right.
That's why we're doing this right now, because you've only got a couple more weeks of velvet. I've seen some social media stuff of hardhorn bucks already, but
really,
I think, it's a bell curve kind of thing.
Yeah.
Most deer are going to shed like mid-September, I think, at least around here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot in that. I always have seen a lot in that like September 7th to 12th range, like right in there, that like week and a half kind of range, I guess. So
we are not far off of that for sure.
Yeah.
But as long as there's velvet on the antlers and there's blood flowing through that velvet, you can see what the headgear is on these bucks. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool, too, because what else is going on this time of year is you got bachelor groups. So it's not like the fall when you're trying to pick up an individual buck. Like, you can go by, and if you spot a bachelor group, you can kind of see all the bucks that are in that area kind of probably are at least in one of 2 or 3 bachelor groups from that area. So it's pretty cool.
It is cool, man. I mean, I guess technically you could use it to scout outside of the velvet season as well. But like right now, if you're interested in this kind of thing, this is the time to do it because they're pretty much fully developed. And, in the next few weeks, they're going to lose what they've got. Not to mention, there are a lot of benefits to this, and I think there's a few things that you got to be careful about as well. But one of the benefits here is that like if you're doing it here in this next little window before they all start shedding, there's a chance, especially if you're a mid-September, but even as an October 1 opener, that you can figure something out very important to your opening your opening day, success or your plan or whatever. So I guess what we kind of want to do is run through a lot of the things that we noticed that were beneficial and some of the things, how we put it into action. One thing that I think was interesting to note, and you and I had been talking about this a little bit today, but and we went out several days and did this. We've done this a few times or whatever, but one of the times that we were out, we actually discovered a buck that has been around for a few years that we've been chasing. And, we're not 100% sure, but same area. I mean,
same type frame.
We're talking literally same type frame. And we're talking like where he was standing in my thermal vision was 50 yards from where I first picked him up on the camera, maybe. I mean, it was right there from the first time I picked him up. But Teenager has re-entered the picture, it looks like.
How crazy is that?
It is crazy.
We haven't seen him since October 26th of last year. Is that right?
Had a couple early November picks.
Did you?
Yep. I had a couple early November picks, and then that was it. Yeah. So, man, the particular public he was on just got, destroyed by people last year.
Yeah.
I mean, we went in postseason, and somebody had just come in there and hung a stand and just looked like they took a shredder into every little oak tree and hickory in there.
Yeah. Old McDonald had a stand in there, man. It's like, here a stand, there a stand, everywhere a stand.
It's like, good grief, how many shooting lanes do you need? You're not supposed to be cutting anything.
I know,
in here,
man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but what's cool and is also a little worrisome is that apparently he's smart and felt the pressure and got out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Right, yeah. So, according to our cameras, yeah. And if this is him, right, yeah, he did survive. So,
yeah. Which kind of puts the pressure on. We always say this, like we want to kill a buck in October. That way we can get a tag notch here locally. And it never happens. It's so tough, right? But like we have to figure it out for multiple reasons over there because he's kind of disappearing in November, at least to us, unless we can figure out something we weren't learning.
Man, there's the thing that's going to be tough over there in October, I feel like, is that if you've kind of followed us for the last couple of years, you probably know we've talked about shoe-marred oaks quite a bit, and there are red oak that puts off an acorn that's about the size of a white oak almost. I guess it depends on where you're at, what your white
size
oaks
of a ping
look
pong
like.
ball.
They're big, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're the biggest acorns that we kind of have in our area, and this particular area that Teenager lives around has got quite a few shoe mards, and that's, I think, an issue. I think we're going to see a good shoe mard crop this year, being that last year was pretty lackluster.
The ones around town are loaded.
Are they?
Now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I was figuring was going to happen this year. And so really, there's, I don't know, it's going to be tough because that time of year you can't just see him cruising at 75 yards because it's going to be tons of leaves on the trees. Yeah, it's going to be thick, especially where a lot of these shoe mards are. And so, you're not going to be able to, grunt him over or anything in mid to late October, just if he gets inquisitive or anything. So you got to be sitting at the right tree, and there's a lot of them in there. I don't know, if you have any thoughts about where you would actually...
I do. I think that I'd go in there as long as it's still greened up. I think I'd hunt from the ground.
Really?
I do. I think with the type of terrain and stuff in there, I think you can find some places to hunt from the ground. And That way you could be mobile, get to a place where you can kind of see. And if you see deer heading to a different tree down through there, you can maybe make a move or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that just combine that with the fact that usually in October it's 100 degrees and you're trying to hang a stand and you get so sweaty.
Yeah, I know.
And it's so loud because there's leaves on everything. And I don't know. I just think that on the ground would be a better thing, man.
Man, it'd be so nice to have a saddle, but it's just another thing after doing a backcountry hunt. I'm just not going to have the money to do it. Like my saddle money kind of went into a nice pack,
Yeah,
so
maybe one day.
Yeah, but it would be sweet to have one, man, because I feel like that'd be the way to go. Because I have actually, and I know we're getting away from our subject here a little bit, but I have actually purchased some steps recently, and I think they're kind of a game changer.
They look nice.
They're just over 1 pound, I think, a piece. And I've got 4 of them. Bought 4 steps for $22, $21.99. 4 steps. Pretty awesome deal.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's a good deal.
And they're super compact and lightweight.
Might need to link to those down below.
Yeah. If we can remember to do that, we will. So check that out.
But yeah, I think that that would be maybe something that you might consider. You could get up there and just like crawl up your steps, hook your harness up, and then just jump off the steps, and you could just hunt from your harness. You ever thought about that?
Just let the harness hang.
Yeah. Your legs can go to sleep, but you don't need them.
No, you don't. Not to shoot,
exactly.
or anything. So, yeah, that's a pretty good point. I might have to try that.
So something I learned in the thermal scouting is that deer oftentimes at night are in places that you don't expect deer to be. Mm-hmm. Like I can think of a couple occasions, but I know there was one where we saw a doe that was out in the middle of like I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of like a woodland park looking area or whatever. There's just a couple big oak trees, but a long way from a tree line. I mean, we're talking like 3/4 of a mile, right? Mm-hmm. But more specifically talking about bucks, we saw a good bachelor group with some very big bucks close to public in, assuming they came off the public, in very marginal areas, like very marginal. Like a place that you'd drive by to go somewhere else.
For sure.
And
we have driven by.
Yes.
And we're just like, oh, this is stupid looking right here.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you think, like, how often are we doing that? But at the same time, you got to find a way to be efficient, and going to, like, the best habitat is the way to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
But with the thermal imaging, how many places did we pass that were marginal and we didn't see deer?
Yeah.
A bunch.
Right.
But that one specific spot, we know that is at least some sort of a home range, at least early season, for a couple big bucks.
Yeah. And that's one of the benefits that I think, a big time benefit that you can kind of use when you use this thermal imaging that you can kind of take advantage of, is that, like, other than, like, there are several things that are just real basic about this whole thermal scouting at night. You can kind of like just drive the roads. There's a lot less sweat involved and that kind of thing. I mean,
a lot more sweet tea involved.
We drank like a gallon of sweet tea,
man.
And just hung out with each other, and we got to talk, instead of just whisper at each other every once in a while. But, a big plus doing this is that you can cover a lot of ground, and you can cover those mediocre spots, like you were saying, and find like which ones is a mediocre looking property that actually holds or draws deer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important because as we've seen in that area before, we're not the only ones drawn to good looking habitat there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where everybody's going, is that good looking habitat. So if you can discover a mediocre looking spot from, in the daytime that actually holds bucks, man, you're like a step ahead of everybody else, man.
And one of the things about this time of year is that you have to assume, we're going to assume, maybe not you have to, but we're going to assume that bucks aren't just moving miles during the night or the evening or the day, right? Like during the summer, their home ranges are going to condense, right? They're going to have a core area, is what you hear a lot of people calling them. So whenever we're driving around at 8:45, 9 o'clock, those bucks didn't come from a mile to get where they were going, right? So
it's too hot in Texas, especially.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're probably bedded within a quarter mile of where we saw them, maybe even closer. We actually went in to one of these places and did a little recon mission after we figured out where those deer were. Actually, a couple of places we went in, but one in particular, we went to hang a camera, walked way in there to this place, found some food sources, natural food sources, and jumped a fawn, and you found a deer superhighway where deer were just going over this creek crossing like crazy, right?
And we had to go through every camera we had just to get one that
make
worked.
one that worked. That's right. Carried 2 cameras in, carried one out. Yeah. But we ended up hanging a camera over that spot, and that's one of the ones I'm really excited to go back and take a look at.
Me too. You know, I think that place is a place that could really we could reap a benefit there in the early season, but also all season, you know. Yeah. But I think that just the way that looked in there, coupled with our scouting, our thermal scouting and everything, man, I think that's a pretty awesome place, man. And you know, kind of back to what you were talking about. I mean, how long did we sit there and look at those bucks and they didn't move anywhere?
Oh, they don't care at all.
No.
It's, I mean, you know, it's a funny...
But I mean, as far as like moving distance, you know.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just milled around the same little, I don't know, quarter acre.
They kept bedding and stuff. Like, it was weird because it seemed like they would just stand up for 5 or 10 minutes and then bed, and then stand up for 5 or 10 minutes in bed, and it's just like they're popping up and down in this tall grass everywhere.
We'd be like, whoa, there's another one. And then, wait, where'd that one go? Oh, there's another one. You know, it's like... It's kind of funny how they can, you know, hide in 10 inches of grass or whatever it is. I
think that right there is, for 20, 25 minutes of doing that, I think that's proof to me that they didn't come from very far away. You know what I mean? So they were close. They were pretty close to public, and I think most of the bedding from the direction they were kind of coming from, that's where most of the bedding would be. So anyway, it's pretty exciting, man. I mean, really, I'm ready to check those cameras, see if kind of we were able to take what we had figured out and like make it work, you know, from a camera hanging perspective. So we'll see. I mean, we're hanging it on a trail still, so you know they actually have to walk by, and if they're not walking much, then they may not actually walk by that, or they may not walk by it much. But we need one picture to know that they're in there, I guess, and make an assumption about where we should hang the camera next. But you know, another thing that I thought was really cool about this thermal stuff is that, you know, a lot of times guys to scout or to hunt, you kind of have to use a kitchen pass or something like that. But, I mean, this is stuff that, like, after the kids or the wife or the GF go to bed, like, you can stay up.
You say catch a pass? Is that what you just said?
Kitchen pass.
What's a kitchen pass? I don't know that.
Like brownie points. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a hall pass, same kind of thing?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, but with your wife. So, I mean, that's kind of the point is that, like.
Are you implying that wives are supposed to be in the kitchen?
No, it's just a common term. I can't believe you haven't heard it.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. I mean, heard that. I was having our friend Jordan Kennedy, me and him were talking about it the other day. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, I need to start using a kitchen pass from time to time. Maybe what it means is like, you spend a bunch of time in the kitchen that day, make your wife something tasty, and then you can slip out the back door.
Yeah. I don't even know why it's derived that way, but it just means, you know, a pass to go out and do something.
Gotcha. Okay, continue on with your point. I'm sorry. I had to verify.
That's my point, though, is that, like, you know, the kids can go to bed at 8, the wife can go to bed, you know, 8 or 9, 10 o'clock, whatever, or your girlfriend can kind of like wind it down for the night and do whatever she does, and you can go out and scout for the rest of the night till, you know, sun comes up if you want to. We weren't doing that.
Brennan can do that. Brennan, he does it. I don't think it's smart, but he does that.
Yeah, and some guys can, man. So
we were out to like 1 that night, and that was way too late for me.
Yeah,
way late.
Yeah, I know. I started struggling about 11:30. Yeah, but you know, I mean, there's so many different things that these thermal imaging scopes can really help you with. I mean, locating food sources. And bedding for early season, you know. I mean, food sources are probably pretty easy, unless you're looking at those mediocre properties that we're talking about earlier. But
I think the thing that was neat to me is how much ground you could cover.
Yes.
Like when we go out and like do boots on the ground scouting, you're learning a different side of things. But I mean, golly, it would have taken so much sweat to do the same amount of good that we did in about 4 or 5 hours of just driving around, right? Like we covered more ground than we could even hope to try to get to in a whole day. Going out, walking around, looking at stuff, evaluating stuff. And honestly, part of the thing is that you don't really get bogged down because it's nighttime. So you can't see all the other little details that, like, oh, look at this. I am like, oh, there's a rub from 3 years ago. I'm like, well, what good's that doing us right now? But when you're out thermal scouting, you can see what's in the headlights, and then you can see what's hot out there, right?
Yeah,
now, I
sure.
did get bogged down on a rabbit or two, I think, or something like that every once in a while. But
yeah, possums and skunks.
It doesn't take that long to be like, oh, okay, rabbit. You keep going, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that was one of the things that I learned is that you're not going to be able to just plan your whole hunting season from a thermal scouting session, but if you want to like maximize your time doing something, it's a great way to maximize your time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what you're doing most of the time when you're scouting, whether it's e-scouting, map scouting, boot scouting, is just you're eliminating ground more than you're actually figuring things out.
Yeah.
You're just eliminating ground, and that's what you can do with this. I mean, Brennan was able to just look out the window, and you were able to drive, and he was just able to just look as we drove, and we'd go a mile or two before we'd even see anything, you know, and then he would be like, oh, there's a slick right there, whatever.
There's Mulehead.
So, it's definitely...
There's a flat top.
It's definitely a good way to eliminate a bunch of ground. And you know what? We were talking earlier about the more traditional types like thermal scouting, one being that like thermal cover, like bedding cover or whatever. And I think that you could use this thermal imaging to help you kind of discover that stuff as well, because obviously this time of year deer are going to use things, areas that keep them more cool and keep the bugs off of them more often. But like when you get into that later season, when it's cold in the off season, even especially, but even during that November, December, when it starts getting cold, you can literally see which trees are putting off more heat than others. You know what I mean? Like whatever you're looking at, whether it's grass, trees, and all this in the mix that you've got inside your scope field of view, like some of that stuff is pretty white, like especially the bark of trees.
Oh yeah.
So
something I thought about too is that if you start talking about further north, like some of the hill country stuff, like in Iowa or whatever, you can literally drive around once the leaves have fallen and thermal the hills and see where deer are bedding or whatever, in the evening or whatever it might be.
Because you can look through it in the daytime, right?
Yeah, you can look through it in the daytime. Heat's heat.
Yeah.
So it's going to show up. Like, for instance, we walked outside of one of my friend's houses the other night, and I said, hey, look at this. A lot of guys are using these things, the cheaper versions, for housing. They'll look and see where their insulation's light or whatever, and they'll go up there and spray some extra insulation. That was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're looking at it and seeing that stuff. So it has nothing to do with light.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So it has nothing to do with daytime, nighttime, whatever. Now, I would imagine that you go outside on a 100-degree day, and it's going to be hard to see a 98.6-degree human out there. You know what I mean? Like, it might be something that's kind of, I don't know, I haven't messed with it too much, when it's super hot, just because who wants to go out there and do that? But, it doesn't have anything to do with time of day. So as long as there's temperature outside, which... if there's not temperature outside, we probably aren't too worried about hunting anymore because things have changed. But yeah, as long as that's happening, you can use it.
Yeah, we another thing that I think it could be beneficial for, but we actually had an encounter one of the times that we did this with some other. I guess they were hunters, but you could almost do some hunter scouting with this thing. I think there's like an application that could be used there. We actually ran into couple hunters or whatever one night, but I think that that's kind of one of those things that you might could use here and there to look at, like say you're hunting a small track, some kind of walk-in or something like that, or open fields and waters, whatever they are, and there's a truck there, and you want to see, well, is this guy hunting like the west side of this section or the east side or what? Because I really want to hunt that west side. I think that's where it's at. And if he's on the east side, I'm just going to go over there because that's literally like a mile away. I mean, you could use that kind of thing in the mornings or whatever. So there's maybe some kind of application there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget about like the traditional application too, as a habitat or whitetail manager, the ability to go out and just kill hogs so much more efficiently, and coyotes too, than what you can, in the daytime whenever you're trapping or if you're trying to hunt hogs or whatever. Like, I've done it at night with thermals, and it's like, I mean, it's not hunting, it's hog control.
Yeah.
Like, you kill like 27.
Yeah.
It's crazy how well it works.
For
so,
sure.
I mean, I know we were trying to make this relate to whitetail, but those are that's like the reason Brendan has it, is for shooting hogs and coyotes, right? So,
well, in that same vein, like if you are like a property manager type or whatever, like if you've got a property that you are able to manage for deer or whatever, this time of year, you're inventorying bucks, and I think being able to do that in a certain area, once they kind of break up, like you may have a deer that like summered right here and, I don't know, ends up a half mile away on another property, kind of utilizing that you never really see on your cameras when you start running cameras during the season. Well, if you're able to like see him in that Bachelor group during the summer, then and get a decent look at him, like when the rut comes and he ends up, a mile on over onto your property or whatever, you don't end up shooting like a young deer. If that's kind of what your goal is to shoot something that's 5 years old, and you don't want this 3-year-old, 140-inch deer running in on you last second chasing a doe, and you got to make a decision. You make the wrong one. A couple of different thoughts there. I mean, I think in general, it just gives you kind of a new and a fresh perspective of just the landscape in general that you don't really see when you're looking at it in the daylight. You kind of hit on that a little bit earlier, but I think it definitely can, like, it was revelatory to like my hunting scheme, I think, but there definitely are some things that I think you have to kind of like take some of this with a grain of salt and make sure that you're not deceived when you go in to make plans and stuff like that.
Yeah, there are probably some pitfalls to it. Like, I can really see where you can be fooled by the here and now. Like, what if that group of bucks that we saw is never there, but they were there that night, and we have this one snapshot of when they were there. Whereas a trail camera, like, you're looking for patterns, right? And you're looking to see, and you're like, okay, if they're only there once, that means we're not very close to where this deer's home range is. Where we look at that as just like an occurrence. And like the way we saw it is how it is, and that really might not be the case, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, that's that. I mean, you kind of in the same light there. Like, you might be looking at bucks that are like doing something that they would never do during the daylight.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's more often than not.
Sure,
right? Like, you can't look at them through the thermal at 11 p.m. and say, oh, that's where they're going to be. 7 a.m. on a cold front. That's not really true.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's a good chance that a mature buck especially would never, because, I mean, you're looking at bucks a lot of times from a truck. So, like, most mature bucks are not going to hang out unless maybe they're in Iowa within the side of a road, you know what I mean? So, you have to think about that. We were able to watch those bucks for 20 or 25 minutes or whatever, and I mean, we were able to pretty much determine they weren't moving hardly at all, so that they, to know, like you said, they're within maybe a quarter mile of bedding maybe. And so, but in cases that you may not be able to get a good look at them, then you may not be able to assume that, it may be a half mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile that they came from. So you just kind of got to be careful of that. Still, I think that boots on the ground stuff is pretty much an essential, to kind of follow up this stuff with. But I mean, you also have deer this time of year, like there is a shift here when the velvet comes off, I think. We talked about this year, which is the reason we didn't hang any trail cameras really more than like a half mile in. There's definitely, I think, a shift in that velvet shed time period. But a lot of regions of the U.S. have like a pretty major, like exaggerated shift, and I think that, if you're planning your hunting strategy around bucks that you've seen in this, and you do have an October 1 opener, like you gotta be prepared to not see a deer that day. You know what I mean? Because they might shift out, because as soon as they shed, like you said earlier, you're not going to be able to see their antlers anymore. So, I mean, technically, you could go back out there and keep looking, and and maybe seeing that same group of 5 bucks or whatever, and just kind of knowing pretty much that's the group, whether or not you can tell they're bucks or does. But, either way, it's going to be hard to know for sure. And a lot of deer are going to move from the time that they shed velvet and you've had looks at them to the time that it opens up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Another thing that I think that you could get really fooled by on this is that, assuming because you didn't see a deer somewhere, that there's not deer there. Because we saw pretty quick how, like, deer just disappear. You can't see terrain or lay of the land. Sometimes you can't even tell, like, that there's trees or bushes in some places. It's just kind of gray, right? So, like, you might be driving by scanning a spot that you thought was going to be bad at the bone. There's nothing there. You're like, oh, man, that's not very good. Well, and really, the deer are just 20 yards inside the tree line. You can't see them. But there's, a 190 in there. That's a joke. But you know what I'm saying, though? Yeah. Like, that we could just think about, like, the first place we drove by the other night. Like, I thought we'd see deer all over the place. We might have saw, like, 2 does, right? But it's because there's a big block of timber right there, and they might not have been out there yet, And luckily, we have enough experience to that spot, and we know that there's deer out there. But it's a good, like, prover that it's not always perfect.
Yeah,
right?
No doubt. I mean, it was difficult to see past vegetation.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just, like I said, some of it holds heat. And so to whatever extent that might be, I mean, the trees seem to be pretty hot. But like you said, the brush in general is just kind of a grayish wall, So definitely difficult to see through all that stuff. And I think, I think where this kind of shines in helping you at least locate bucks or locate deer is in that field setting. So for a lot of people, they actually have agriculture that matters to deer. We don't really. But I think that, it can also, it's another thing that could kind of trick you a little bit. If you're scouting these fields, it's my understanding, and I don't hunt or haven't spent a lot of time in like this kind of ag country, but bean fields become increasingly less desirable in the month of September, from what I understand. Is that kind of
from what I understand? As soon as they start to yellow up, that's when they get bad. They also smell kind of funny.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. I haven't been to beans in the Midwest, but when I worked down south, there's beans too. Dude, the hogs destroyed the beans. They didn't care if they were yellow. The hogs got in there and went crazy.
Well, see, so the deer, from what I understand, as they become yellow, they're less desirable to the deer. And it, like, guys talk about how, like, the first 10 days of September usually the best, because after that the beans start to change and they just get off their patterns or whatever. And so I think that's something that you have to take into account too. Is like September, there's a lot of food sources that are changing. I mean, you've got persimmons that are ripening. You have several different types of oak trees that'll start dropping, and they'll drop all the way, especially through October, all the way around here, even into January probably. So you've got a lot of different food sources that are changing at the time, and beans would be included in that in other areas. So, like, if you're looking at a bean field and you got a big buck coming out into that thing, and you have an October 1 opener, just don't expect that that's going to be for sure what he does on October 1.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things you can do from that is maybe what you should have done already is boots on the ground, all the area around there, and maybe have a good idea of where his food sources are going to change to. Because you can still, like, locate him and be like, oh, there's a big buck.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing that I think that we need to get better at, and if we're going to do this, we need to, do the thermal scouting thing. We need to think about this kind of stuff is where are those deer going to shift to once, the acorns start falling, or once
white oaks,
once hunting pressure increases, or, once like there is some type of winter ag or something out there, like where are they going to shift to? Like, it's what it is it's locating deer in the here and now, and you have to take that and use your hunter's brain to apply it to what the whitetails actually are going to do. It's not just it's fun, but it's not a catch-all. It's not like the answer, right? It's just another tool.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's a great way to kind of summarize this whole thing is like, this is a great tool. If you have the option to get a hold of one of these things, which luckily we had some friends.
That's right. Let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
So there are different options. it's all expensive. It's like going to at least be the cost of a tag, right? Depending on what state and what tag. Some of them are sheep tags, some of them are some of them are OTC deer. But so there's kind of 3 different price points. You're going to have like there's a loophole one that I see and have seen that is like that $400 range. There's the thing called a FLIR, which I've used before that works. I don't think it's going to be great. Those aren't going to be great for like really differentiating, like, man, that's a big 10-point, right? But you can probably see a white dot if you're trying to figure out if there's deer there, right? Then there's like the entry-level scopes that are around $1,500. I've looked through those. They're okay. They don't have a lot of features. But then the other night we were playing with this Pulsar, like XLR 50 or something like that. I can't remember what it was. That one of our friends had that loaned you. And it's got internal memory and all kinds of stuff. Like, we were able to record within the scope 8 gigs worth of memory. Like, that's bad to the bone.
Yeah, that's sweet.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's about $3,200 rig, something like that. Yeah. So
they get higher, don't they?
Oh yeah, I think you can spend up to $6,000 or $7,000 on one.
Yeah,
and that has a lot to do with magnification and different things like that. But like the ones we were using would magnify up to like, I don't know, what would that one do? I don't remember.
10,
it's like
maybe?
I think they got some that'll go way up higher than that.
Yeah, but I mean, even that one, you know, once you get past about 5x, like you're really starting to get blurry.
Grainy.
Yeah, grainy. So, you know, that's the thing is like, if we found does like real close to the road several times, and like the image quality was really nice. Like it was cool, man. You could see their eyes and all the detail.
Oh, we had that video of that one big buck peeing. And you can see his urine. That's right. It's crazy. Yeah. You know, he was like 40 yards away or something. Yeah. Right? It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that was cool, man. So,
but yeah, the best thing is just to find friends that have them. You know, especially like you and I don't really have like a multi-purpose use for them. Yeah. You know, I mean, if I had one, I might go shoot hogs or something. But I've killed so many pigs. I'm just not that in. I'm not that mad.
Well, neither one of us are good at staying up late.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. That's right, man.
Yeah.
So I think that. You know, if you've got buddies, especially if you're in the South where this thing has really caught on because there's pigs around, like, just find a buddy and take them out and, you know, maybe blindfold them for a little while so they don't know exactly where you're at and just go look for deer.
For sure, dude. I just got free reign to the one I got to borrow. They didn't have to even come with me.
Yeah.
So it was nice. Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy for us in Texas, maybe a little harder for the people. Like you said, there's pigs around here, so a lot of guys have them. Not to mention, we have a lot of good economy here.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right, man.
Guys are spending money on hunting gear.
Yeah,
just freely or whatever. So, but yeah, you definitely want to try to get a hold of this of something like that and use it if you can, because it is a tool that I think could be really effective, and it's pretty new to us to be doing this type of thing. These are kind of our first assumptions about what this tool could possibly do for us. We have hung lots of trail cameras because of that thermal scouting, the several sessions that we did, and I think that the proof will obviously come this season, probably, but there may be a little proof here pretty soon when we check cameras. You know that hey, this is an effective tool because we got to hang these cameras based off of our thermal scouting, and now we have a lot of information.
Especially with that one group of bucks that was in a place we didn't expect. Like, if we can go in there and pick up those deer on camera and then possibly kill one, like, it's because of the thermal.
Yeah, no doubt. Bonus. I mean, new area just because of that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of what we've been talking about for a long time is that we'll travel. Go ahead.
Not even new area that we've known about forever and
driven by. Yeah. And that's the thing is that, like, we drive a lot of different places to try to find spots that people aren't really hunting that have good bucks on it on public here in Texas. And I mean, it's tough to do, man. And so the thermal, you know, allows us to get one more spot, and we're talking about this year. Like, this is maybe the first year we feel like that we have several options for several wins. Whereas before it was like, okay, we got a piece on this place and we got a piece on this place, or a spot on this place that, you know, we could hunt on south wind. Man, if we get a north, we really only have one spot, and I hope nobody's in there hunting. You know what I mean? So, you know, or we can, if we get this wind, we can drive way over here and do this or whatever. So it's just kind of like we've had like 4 or 5 spots that we felt good about in the past, and then last year, you know, we had, like we were talking about earlier, we had people just rampage in on a certain spot that didn't have hardly any pressure the year before, and that just takes off one of your options for a certain wind or two, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the more spots we can get, the better, and we feel good about this year. And part of that is because of thermal scouting. So, and we also have a pretty. Hopefully, we hung a camera for teenager, or a couple of cameras, trying to catch teenager, and we're hoping that, you know, if we can pick them up on one of these cameras, that it could possibly be a really great early season spot, like opening weekend spot. So I think what we're going to do is right before we go to the Gila, we're probably going to go in there and check. And if those cameras show us what we're hoping they show us, man, it could be the first time I've ever shot a buck before November, I think.
Wow.
So
we're going to move, if either way, we're going to move a camera over to the Shumards down there.
Probably need to.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 cameras that probably should be moved if they don't show a whole lot. I know one.
What if they do?
If they do, it's just going to come down to, like, if there's a camera that doesn't show pretty regular thing going on, then we move it. If they're pretty regular, then you know, might just stay there until we get back from the Gila, and because it's still going to be September when we get back, so not a whole lot's probably going to change. But
well, we got 2 cameras left.
Dude,
we're running kind of low.
We are running low on cameras, so yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. We got a lot of hunting to do in September. I'm really excited about it, man.
I know it, man.
So
you're going to kill all kinds of stuff in September.
We'll see.
You're going dove hunting, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Going dove
hunting. Where
hunting.
y'all going?
We're going to Breckenridge, Texas.
Dang, that's a long way for some dovies.
It's not as bad as usual. A lot of guys go out to Abilene and all that.
Eesh.
This is, 3 hours probably, so not bad at all. We went out there a bunch before I got to playing football in high school.
Let's stop at Taco Delight on the way.
Dude, don't even tempt me. Yeah, it's that's, I don't know. We used to go out there. It was good, really great dove hunting out there, and we're going at the same landowner. But it's been since I was in high school before we did this.
That's cool.
So with him or whatever. So it's pretty much like, I don't know. I can I'll say this. I don't say this lightly, but I can shoot a shotgun, dude.
Yeah.
And, it's like, usually you're limited out so quick, it's not even funny.
That's cool.
Obviously, if you're a good shot, 20 or 25 birds fly by you within range, you should have a limit.
Well, the last time you went out there wasn't ringnecks either. Right?
Are they going to be out there again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Whenever
I know we shot a couple in Abilene a couple years ago.
We went through Amarillo going elk hunting this year. It was like, what do they call it, black skies or whatever, like just ringnecks going galore.
Really?
Man. Yeah. So.
Well, I know they're an increasing species.
Yeah. They're a feral game. You can kill as many as you want to.
Yeah.
And what's surprising is even though they look a lot bigger on the wing, they're like maybe 10% bigger.
They don't breast out very much bigger.
No,
dude. No.
It's all puff.
Yeah,
it's all fluke.
It is. Like, I had trouble I think it was last year, maybe year 4 when we went. I had trouble. Like, I had to look hard to figure out which one was the ringneck.
Yeah.
After I'd cleaned them all.
Yeah.
So.
I think you might say that's all meringue, no filling. Like, it's not how you refer to that.
Yeah, and they're a good target. They're slow,
They are. They make a weird noise though. Sound a little bit like a velociraptor. A little bit. I had to chase one down across the pasture, and then when I got there, it went. Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, that's weird."
I know, they're weird, man. I took one year. I took when I was younger. I thought it was so cool, man. I had a pellet pistol, with CO2 in it.
Oh man,
little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Looked like a Desert Eagle.
It looked like a Beretta. I don't remember the model.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a James Bond looking pistol, And dude, that was my finishing weapon. So I would, instead of ringing their necks, I just walk up and be like, just pop them in the head. and hope I didn't miss, But
Yeah.
that was my finishing weapon. But man, it's exciting. It's a thing here in Texas. You're almost like a weirdo if you don't go dove hunting.
Yeah. The other day you asked me, you're like, "Are you going dove hunting?" Like, kind of like "Are you cool, bro?"
Yeah, I was asking if you're cool. No, I was asking if you were like going somewhere, if you're just gonna hop around here.
No, I'll just be hopping around here.
Yeah, man, I just don't like hunting around here much. I
don't
had
either.
a pretty good hunt last year with Slade Daniel.
I have to call that guy.
He took me to a little farmer's place, and I shot 7 in an afternoon.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I was shooting well that day too, but I mean, so we didn't have a ton flying past us, but pretty good little afternoon.
I grew a goat weed patch this year, so I think I'm going to go shred that.
That's a good idea.
A couple days before. And
yeah,
I have a whole plan for this. So I've got 2/3 of an acre of goat weeds now. I mean, they're thick and fertilized because I had watermelons there. And they're tall. I'm going to go get some food plot and hand spread that. And then I'm going to go in there and shred it. That way all those goat weeds fall on top of that stuff and creates a seed bed or whatever. So
it's cool.
I'm going to have doves, and unless the doves get in there and eat all my food plot stuff, that would be bad.
Unless you had unlimited doves because of it.
Well, I think I need to make some considerations on that because I need to make sure and get that stuff out. What is it, 10 days before season?
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know. I know there's a ton of like guys that lease their land out west and stuff that don't abide by that.
Yeah.
But it's actually 10 days from the time that all the bait is gone. So pretty cool rule. But
well, I wonder what constitutes hunting over it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like you can figure out the flyaway and be hunting away from it a little ways.
Because I'm really not trying to hunt the doves.
Sure,
I don't want them to eat my food plot stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You were wanting to grow food plot for deer. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was also going to ask you, like, I wonder, like, how, like, you probably should do it kind of far out because you want those dove to kind of get regular on it before the season, right? You don't want them to just be like have to find it in like 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking about it, but yeah. It's going to be a fun September, so I'm pretty excited. Guys, don't forget the reviews because at the end of September, towards the end of September after our hunt, we're going to choose the Thursday after our hunt will be announced the winner of the VORTEX BINOs. Are we going to get to the 300 reviews?
I don't know. Depends on everybody else, but I kind of want to keep that prize for ourselves.
Yeah,
so.
it's a trail camera, really nice $150 trail
we're
camera.
We're both looking at it right now.
We are.
It's up on a shelf.
Please, y'all, don't get us to 300 because we need another trail camera.
$299, bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, and then OnX, some swag. We're gonna give away some T-shirts and stuff, some Element T-shirts, which are, by the way, like probably the coolest T-shirts out there.
They are.
They're pretty slick.
Yeah.
Anyway, so give us reviews, and we will give you some of that stuff more than likely. All this thermal stuff is we captured it in a couple of nights that we did this thermal scouting, and we put the video out, I don't know, a couple weeks ago maybe. It's just like thermal scouting, Texas monster buck or something. I don't know, but it's on our YouTube channel a few videos back. It's got the thumbnail has a big giant buck that we also videoed on thermal, which was really cool. Are you going to get that buck?
I don't know. I'd like to.
You better.
We'll try.
He's a toad, man. So yeah, you can go check that out. It's just kind of, there's a lot of stuff in there of just us hanging out with Brennan because he's a good time every time. So also there's a new series going on. We talked about the backcountry series. It's over now. We started a new little mini series. We don't really have a name for it, but it's just kind of archery series. It's all tech stuff. It's like really detailed, but kind of cool and important stuff. I'm not a gearhead.
Yeah.
But this was cooler than I thought it would be.
Well, I think we did it to where everyone could kind of listen to it and take it in. Like we didn't get into like the densities of carbon on anything or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's actually been pretty well received so far. I've seen a lot of people have liked. We've only released one episode. It was about stabilizers, and it was with Laven Newsom and Caleb Sorrells of Shrewd Archery. Go check. I think we called it A1, like the steak sauce.
Baby, thick and hearty.
Thick and hearty. Yeah. And you and I debated on if that's hearty, like a heart, like HEART, or if it's hardy, like HARDY. I don't know. I need to go check that out. I'm not a steak sauce guy, so I don't really know.
I'm not. I used to. I mean, I love A1. I'll throw it on a burger or something here and there. But
a good steak doesn't need sauce, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It needs salt, pepper, and butter.
But that A1's for like when your granddad cooks a steak and it's like a medium well, and you're like,
yeah. It's funny you say that because the older generation they will well do a steak.
oh yeah, man, for sure, for sure. I don't understand it. Like, man, this used to be a T-bone, now it's just like a bone.
Yeah, for sure. There's also a series coming soon called Big Buck Breakdowns.
Hot dog! I'm so excited about that.
This is year 3 of those, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So we're excited. We're going to see who of our friends can be a third-year repeat.
I've got my money on a few people.
Eric Barber,
Sam Hogan. Those two dudes are going to kill big bucks every year.
Yeah. So
and speaking of Sam Hogan, we might see a little bit more of him in the future.
Might see him. Yeah, for sure. Sam's been up to some cool stuff. We're going to probably try to get him on the podcast pretty soon. I'm hoping if we can get our schedules to work out. Like I said, we got a busy September, but if we can get him on, we got a pretty cool little topic to discuss with Sam. But yeah, anyway, Big Buck Breakdowns are coming soon as our friends start killing bucks, which I think a lot of the deer seasons or some of the hardcore deer hunters will be hunting this opening weekend of September. Deer season stuff coming up, so it's an exciting time.
Some of the more hardcore ones you said?
Yeah. So it's an exciting time in the deer woods.
It is, man. Season is here.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, I hope that you guys are getting excited. I know we are. Don't forget to join us on Facebook if you're listening to this on Thursday, the 29th. We'll see you at 7 p.m. Central. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.